Hey everybody, Critical True Crime here with my friend Shannon from TikTok. We met on TikTok because we are both kind of obsessed with the Sarah Grace Patrick case. I mean, not obsessed, but we were like thinking about it before like everybody else was thinking about it. And it compelled us both to start making content about it pretty much, and because we didn't see anybody else talking about it. So yeah, I just invited her over to my stream so we could catch up on some true crime stuff and just have a chill stream. We're going to talk a little bit about Lake and Snelling, about the Tepe case. We're going to talk about Luigi Mangione and a little Sarah Grace Patrick.
I am excited.
Yeah. So this is Shannon. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why the Sarah Grace Patrick case struck you and why you like true crime in general.
So I come from a family of true crime buffs. My dad's sister, and particular, my dad's sister and I are very, very into this stuff, have been for a long time. The first case that I ever really followed and got into was Casey Anthony. So that was kind of like my introduction to this world. And I've kind of peripherally followed cases just as an observer for quite a while. Kind of always thought in the back of my mind, I want to make a YouTube channel, I want to get on TikTok, whatever. Never really did it. And the interesting thing is I have YouTube and TikTok for other reasons, not my true crime account, but just I do them quite frequently. And I've always wanted to transition into this area. So the Sarah Grace Patrick case, I cannot remember how I initially heard about it, but I can tell you that what struck me instantly was a true crime creator with like many followers, like very, very established, had some headline that called her a murderer, like literally not alleged, called her a murderer, the girl who murdered her parents. I'm like, you should know better than that. Like you're innocent until proven guilty. And then I noticed this pattern continuing with other content creators, family members, etc. And it just bothered me. I'm a very, very big advocate of innocent until proven guilty, for starters. And so and then I think the other part of it was what I kept hearing is people didn't like her eulogy speech. They thought the attention seeking on TikTok was wrong. And, they thought different aspects of her behavior just automatically translated to guilt. And my lived experience is that somebody can be on the surface appearing one way and inside something very, very different going on. I have personally been through this. And so I have kind of a soft spot for anybody whose behavior is maybe misinterpreted or assumed. And I will always be drawn to cases like that. And so it compelled me to finally start a TikTok, comment on it. I haven't done a ton yet, but this is something in 2026 I'm going to get way more into.
Yeah, same as you. These cases where they have nuance and you can kind of um, get the vibes of innocent or guilty, or just any kind of nuance are cases that really strike me. Where you could maybe see it from both sides, or where there could be like an alternate explanation for things. I think those cases are really interesting. So I'm with you. Is your aunt, does she look at cases like you do, where it's like innocent until proven guilty, or does she look at them more? Did you say your aunt that you're close with?
So it's my father and my sister that are like the other people in my family that are big time into this. I come also from a family that has a few attorneys in it. So my uncle is
Oh, yeah.
actually a criminal defense attorney in
Oh, there you go.
Missouri. And so I've kind of grown up hearing stories like that too. But I think I don't really know about that aspect of it. I think they're fascinated by like the psychological, like how could somebody do certain things? What would your life be like if you're thrown in prison? That's fascinating too.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and another thing about me is I have a lot of criminals in my family. So
oh,
I mean, not anything too crazy, but like true crime has touched me. Like my dad was in prison, growing
oh,
up
okay.
for weed, but um just like little things like that where the criminal justice system has touched me, and I do see things from a little bit different of a light. Um yeah, so happy to have you here. So what is your initial thoughts about Lake and Snelling?
So this case grabbed me, and if I'm correct, I believe that the grand jury will later this month evaluate evidence and decide if more charges are coming. So she's basically been charged with stuff related to the birth of the infant and concealing it, but nothing related to a possible murder or manslaughter. And I don't know enough to know if those charges are appropriate. I am really, really intrigued to learn more about what that evidence is. And so I wait. I guess I feel bad saying eagerly because that suggests like an excitement, like this is cool. Of course it's not, it's tragic,
Yeah,
but I want more information.
I do too. And I really want to know about that coroner's report, because I think that'll tell us whether it was an infant or whether it was a fetus or, what it was and if these charges are appropriate because a lot of her charges have to do with, concealing the the death and this, or concealing the corpse or whatever. But I don't think that's appropriate if it is a miscarriage because I don't think the state should dictate what you do in that case. But we will see whenever I mean, I guess the grand jury will decide whether. I mean, I guess the grand jury will have to have the coroner's report to decide if it was murder because it would have to be an infant for it to be murder.
I hope, I guess if this sounds so simplistic, but I hope that whatever they decide to do, whether it is charge her with something or not, it's done for the right reasons.
Yes.
And that's really all I can hope for is that if
Yeah.
she did something and there's a crime there, that she doesn't get away with it, that they're not easy on her. If she didn't, that they don't try to manufacture something because of public sentiment.
Right. And like you said earlier, which I didn't even realize, but it does make sense, is, I hope they treat her equally, and not any kind of special way because she was some cheerleader or because, she was part of the university or whatnot.
I think too, just not pertinent to whether she'll be charged, but these cases, to me, looking at the photos, it's quite obvious she was pregnant. I I just don't know how people around her couldn't have known this. So that's just one thing that when I look at this case, I think, how could that even be possible?
Yeah. And she could have maybe known, but just kept it to herself and not known what she was going to do, her next steps were, so she didn't want to announce it, possibly. But I don't know. I always try to look at things from like the best lens that the best lens I can with rose-colored glasses. But who knows?
Yeah, well, we'll have our answer soon, honestly. If the grand jury meets in late January, we should know something soon, and that is definitely one I will be following.
Yeah, same. So I got this little 20-minute video. Just feel free to interrupt, and I will pause it, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. I cannot hear.
One sec.
No problem.
Because if you can't hear, everybody else probably can't hear. So I took it off and I re-added it. Can you hear now? No?
No.
Okay. I'm going to take it off and then just share that tab. No?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I'm going to take it off and share that. Sorry. I'm a newbie at this.
No worries.
There we go. I just shared that tab, so maybe this will work.
The prosecutors
There we go.
admitted. We'll break that down in just a moment. But to understand where we are in this case and where it's going next, we have to break down its shocking beginning. So I want you to come with me back to August 27th of this year in Lexington, Kentucky. Of course, the home of the University of Kentucky and where Laken Snelling once went to school. She was a member of the University of Kentucky Wildcats stunt cheerleading team, big SEC school. I mean, this is a big deal, but she's no longer a student at UK because she withdrew after what police say went down in her off-campus apartment on the 27th. This is a video of the Kentucky Wildcats competing per flow cheer on YouTube. This video was from April of 2025, meaning that if she gave birth to a baby who was full term in August, like police say, she was very much pregnant at the time this video was taken. Now, on August 27th, Lexington police say they were called to Laken Snelling's home for a report of an unresponsive infant. That child, a baby boy, was pronounced dead on scene. Now, they say that the baby was found in a closet. An arrest citation says that the infant was wrapped in a towel inside of a black trash bag. The citation reportedly says that Snelling was read her rights and she allegedly admitted to giving birth to this baby. Then she allegedly said that she concealed the birth by cleaning evidence and putting all the cleaning items inside of a black trash bag along with the body of that infant who was wrapped in a towel. Now, newly released court documents to the Kentucky Kernel, which is the student newspaper at UK, reveal that Snelling allegedly told police that she gave birth around 4 o'clock in the morning, and then she told officers that she did not think the baby was breathing or alive. She also said that she was awake for about a half hour, then she fell asleep on top of the baby. And when she woke up, that baby had turned blue and...
Okay, so if she gave birth and she did not think the baby was alive, the first thing that pops to mind is why not call 911?
Maybe because she thought she was having a miscarriage.
But wouldn't you want like emergency services to help you?
Well, the miscarriage is a natural process. So if you miscarry at all, then you wouldn't really need services. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because I have had a miscarriage in a hospital and it was kind of traumatizing.
Okay.
So if I don't ever want to get pregnant again, but if I were to ever get pregnant again and I miscarried, I would want to do it at home,
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that's just why my perspective on those thoughts. So, and I don't know if I would call 911. I mean, it depends. If it was like, if I thought it was a baby, that would be different, like, I guess it really just would depend, and then,
Yeah.
and then also, what if, since she never told anybody she was pregnant, what if, maybe she was afraid that she was going to get charged with murder, for having a miscarriage.
I mean, I think that makes sense to me. Fear would be the motivator here to not call, especially if you've concealed something.
Or,
Obviously, we don't know her brain or her heart, but it just, from the outside looking in, it is hard for me to imagine myself giving birth to what I thought was a baby not breathing and not calling immediately for help. It's just hard to imagine.
Yeah, if it was an actual baby, yes. I don't know how far along she was. Just kind of guesstimating by how the pictures and all that. I guess just guesstimating.
Yeah, I don't know either. I've heard just from the various reports that it was basically full term, but I do not know if that's been confirmed.
Purple. She reportedly said that she didn't think that the baby was alive. She then said that she wrapped the baby like a burrito, then laid next to it in a moment of comfort. Now, this is all per the court documents that the student newspaper at the University of Kentucky had been able to get. Now, it is interesting how that story compares with what Laken Snelling reportedly told doctors. When Snelling woke up for class, she then allegedly wrapped the baby in a towel, then put the baby in a trash bag, and then placed that bag in the closet. She also reportedly cleaned up the blood in her room with paper towels, and she put the placenta in a Ziploc bag. Now, even though she just went through this major medical event and her son was dead, Snelling reportedly left the house to go to her class, but she says she actually didn't go into class. She instead sat in her car, and the court documents say she actually ordered McDonald's through the McDonald's app. Now, while all of this was happening, there appeared
Also, I kind of, I'm kind of hearing just a little bit of feedback. After I had my miscarriage, the first thing I wanted was a cheeseburger. So I kind of feel sympathy for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, her going to go get food really didn't strike me one way or the other. I think it's just one of those things that doesn't mean a lot, honestly.
Yeah. And it's like one of those comfort things, like you know, like if you want food, you know, like if you're sick and you go through something traumatic and you want, you know, and you're hungry, you want to take care of yourself and you want to eat, you know.
Yeah.
Appears to have been multiple roommates in her home. And around the time that Snelling reportedly said that she gave birth, one of her roommates texted a Snapchat group that they thought they heard something fall, and another roommate said that they thought that they had heard.
Yeah, I think I keep hearing a little bit of feedback on your once I start talking it goes away, but Belly in the chat says that is kind of wild if she was full term. How do you how do you not feel like you're dying from pain if you're getting birth at full term? I'm calling 911 myself. Which, like, yeah.
Heard noises for roughly an hour from Snelling's room. Now, after Snelling left the home for class, her roommates then go into her room, and it appears she never told her roommates that she was pregnant, but they were somewhat suspicious. Now, when they entered the room, they allegedly found a blood-soaked towel and a plastic bag containing evidence of childbirth. They also found the baby, and that's when they called the police. Snelling eventually went to the hospital, and that's where this new subpoena comes in that I'll talk about in just a moment. It is at the hospital, UK Medical Center, where she allegedly told doctors that the baby displayed, quote, a little bit of fetal movement, and he made a, quote, whimper, and she, quote, guessed the baby was alive. So very different.
Also, I think the way you're raised might make you call a miscarriage a baby.
Oh, really?
Yes, because like people that are like super Christian and conservative might be more willing to call a miscarriage a baby than somebody that doesn't view it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. I have friends that believe life starts literally the second of conception.
Right.
And friends that believe all the way up to it's not a baby until it's born, so, and everything in between.
Right. All Eyes says I have complicated feelings on these stories because pregnancy crosses wires in my mom in some mama's brains, and I don't think we always recognize there's a problem until tragedies happen, and that's so true. The pregnancy hormones and stuff can make your brain do crazy things, like on top of how fragile we all already are, you know, in our brains.
Are you familiar with the Lindsay Lowe case?
I think I have only familiar about it because I heard it from you.
Okay. So the Lindsay Lowe case was like an early one that I followed. It was one of the earliest cases, and it's one of 3 people that I've actually written letters to. So after she was convicted, I actually did send her a letter, but she was from Tennessee, great family, college graduate, professional career. She gave birth to twins in the bathroom of her parents' home. And I mean, depending on who you listen to, after she gave birth, she put her hands over their mouths to, she says, stifle the cries. Both twins were found deceased in a laundry basket in her room at that home. And she was ultimately convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and child abuse. She says and swore repeatedly that she disassociated, that it's a real thing, that there was, you know, mentally things going on. I honestly don't know what I believe in this case. It seems very nuanced to me. But the Lake and Snelling case reminds me of the Lindsay Lowe case, which, by the way, had a very, very interesting trajectory because after conviction, she appealed for many years, was rejected at pretty much every level. And then when they were on their last ditch effort, which I believe was post-conviction relief, and they were trying to argue ineffective assistance of counsel, they stumbled across a jury questionnaire and were able to prove that a particular juror was put on the jury after saying one thing on the questionnaire and the complete opposite while being questioned by the attorneys and judge in terms of her opinion of the case. That alone essentially threw out the verdict. She was released, went home and lived with her parents for a year and a half, essentially vacating a life sentence. And the state appealed. And every legal expert I listened to said the state will lose because the right to a fair trial is like fundamental. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the state did not lose. The verdict was then turned back around and she was put back in prison, I
Mm.
believe, in the summer of 2024. And the last I heard, they've appealed to the Supreme Court and are waiting.
That is wild.
It is very
That's a
wild.
wild ride.
I mean, just taking the crime part of it aside, can you imagine mentally you're in prison for, I think in Tennessee, life is 51 years before parole. So this is a girl who went in at 26, was not going to be out till she's 77, best case. And then all of a sudden at like age 33 or whatever she was when she had it overturned, she's back at home, living with her mom and dad, experiencing holidays. Apparently she was working a job. I believe I read it was like as an interior design assistant. Just living, I mean, I don't want to say living her best life because who knows, but just a complete reversal of fortune there.
That's crazy. Somebody in the chat, Spooky in the chat said, from Mishawaka, Indiana, there was a story about somebody named Purvi Patel, and they came from a high pressure family that would have disowned her if she would have had a child out of marriage.
Ooh.
And that sounds like something pretty interesting too, like another pressure being added to you, you know, as a woman, you know, after giving birth.
For sure. I mean, this was not my experience because as a teenager, I did not get pregnant, but I remember thinking at the time, if that were to happen, that would have been just so awful. And I would have been so scared to tell my mom and dad, who are great people and would have, I'm sure, supported me. But like as a teen, thinking about how that would feel, and granted, these girls are a little bit older than that, but I remember just the feeling of terror because you'd hear stories. It's like, if that were ever me, that would be, I don't even know how I could even tell my parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I was pregnant at 15, but nobody cared. So,
Oh, gotcha.
and I mean, yeah, I was already married. So,
From what we're seeing, her allegedly.
oh, and then also, my boyfriend Matt in the chat said he's from Kentucky, and he said from where he's at right now, a lot of people they would have full funerals for their miscarriages.
Okay.
Tell police at the home per those documents that the student newspaper was able to get. Now, that statement, it's going to be huge in how this case moves forward. Snelling's digital footprint may also be some key evidence as this case progresses because it doesn't.
Yeah, I think the digital footprint could add a lot to the case because it'll show what she was thinking, you know, and I think that matters.
I think it does too. And I think that it's hitting on like a bigger point that we wanted to talk about, which is just none of us with a lot of these cases have enough information to have a really informed opinion in early stages. Because
Yeah.
How differently would you feel if you learned certain facts versus other facts?
Right.
And until you know those, it's so hard. That's why I'm so against people convicting someone before trial.
Oh, I called Matt my boyfriend. He's my fiance.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. We've been together for 10 years, but
cool.
we just need to pull the trigger and get married, but we give
Awesome.
each other a hard time.
Appear that police have images of.
Yeah, and think about how much it would change if they found out that that was a miscarriage, you know, and everybody just blew it out of proportion, or, you know, everybody, Mr. Emily, you know, how, that would be awful. Think about all the ways the media talked about her and, you know, said that she killed her baby and this and that. You know, what if it was, you know, 4 months, a 4-month miscarriage, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that turns out to be the case, if any of the charges would then be dropped, the ones that have already been, you know, put against her.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, I mean, I would hope that's not the case. And I would hope that's not the case. You know, that would be awful if that was the case.
Snelling.
I mean, it's awful either way, because if it really happened, that would be awful too. But
during labor,
like if she killed an infant.
she allegedly deleted. Police said in a request for a search warrant for her social media accounts that they could, quote, contain current or deleted information that relates to Miss Snelling's pregnancy, to the birth of the full-term baby, and ultimately its potential demise. Now, publicly, Snelling appeared to be very active on social media up until roughly the spring, when she stopped posting pictures of herself, at least from what we can see. And another shocking part of this is it appears that she did present herself as someone who had aspirations to one day be a mom. This is the last post that she had on TikTok. It is from June. So roughly 2 months, maybe 3 months until she gave birth to that baby. And it is a picture.
I think it's really crazy how people can be in such denial about what is going on in their life too. You know, just crazy.
I would agree with that.
With emojis that describe her. In the bottom left, you can see there is one that says goals, and it shows an emoji of a mom with a child. Now, another big question is who the father is of the boy that Snelling allegedly gave birth to inside her off-campus apartment. We know that there is an ex-boyfriend who submitted DNA to police. And we also know that Snelling was reportedly in a relationship with another man in more recent months around the time of birth. Now, it is unclear what their relationship status was at the time that she gave birth and what their relationship status is now. Other big questions in this case could be answered with this new subpoena that was put in by prosecutors just this month. According to WKYT-TV, prosecutors issued a subpoena to UK Medical Center. So that is the hospital that Laken Snelling went to, where she said that the baby perhaps was breathing when he was born. Now, the subpoena, which is dated December 9th, it demands all of Snelling's medical records going all the way back to August 2024 to now. August 2024, roughly a year before she gave birth. Now, the hospital has until January 20th to provide those documents. As this case moves forward, Snelling is not in jail. Her bond was set at $100,000, and she was able to post that. Snelling is facing 3 charges. It's abuse.
I don't know, man. Sometimes Spooky was saying if she wonders if it's like a recent thing with people with social media and stuff like that, and with people being like so detached to reality and cognitive dissonance and all that. But I don't know. I feel like women have been pretending like shit hasn't been happening for years and years and years, you know? Like covering up all the stuff in their family, pretending that their husband isn't abusing their kids, pretending, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting psychological exploration.
Yeah.
Use of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and concealing the birth of an infant, and she has pleaded not guilty to those charges. Now, the new information in this case also is that the conditions of bond for Snelling, they have been changed in recent months. Snelling must now wear an electronic monitoring device while she is on house arrest. She is reportedly staying at a family home in her hometown of Tennessee. She also can only be on house arrest at one location, opposed to splitting time between her mom's house and her dad's house. She is staying at her dad's home, which is in Tennessee. Now, it is unclear what prompted that change in bond conditions. It came down at the end of October. But again, right now, Snelling's case is awaiting a potential indictment from a grand jury, which will decide officially what charges Snelling will face. And that potentially could mean perhaps murder. It perhaps could mean manslaughter is added to the charges that Laken Snelling is facing if a grand jury decides that there's evidence to support that. But again, this subpoena, which is due to be finished by January 20th from the hospital for her medical records, that could be a massive, massive piece of evidence and information that the grand jury could look at. Joining us to talk a little.
I wonder what they're looking at in her medical records. I wonder if they're looking for like prenatal care, and I wonder if that would be for her or against her if she had prenatal care.
Yeah, it's interesting. And every time there's a case, I think about it kind of from 2 angles. First of all, can you imagine having to wait for this, I guess I say verdict, but the answer from the grand jury? Imagine from the perspective of she really didn't do anything wrong, and how scared you might be, wondering if they were going to try to pin something on you, make an example of you. On the flip side, if you know that you did something and you covered it up, I think that would equally be excruciating for different reasons. So the waiting period for her, there's a part of me just on a human level that has sympathy for how difficult that would be.
Yeah, and I think there's like a third thing, which is she didn't do anything wrong, but she didn't act appropriately afterwards. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little bit more about this case and where it could go from here is prosecutor and former deputy attorney general for the state of Ohio, Mark Weaver. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. I know we've talked about Lake and Snelling and this case, but
Yeah, I wonder about the paternity too. Belly said, I wonder if paternity concerns factor into these stories. Like maybe there isn't certainty in who the father is, and that creates even more an even more desperate feeling.
So just a question, did they establish who the father is? Is that known or is that just speculated on?
They did paternity test. I don't think they've came out with the answer.
Okay.
From what they said, but I would think they would know if they did a paternity test. I mean, you can find out who everybody is from DNA these days.
I remember the photos they had of her where it was like a photo shoot with a boyfriend. It looked so much like a maternity shoot in some of those
Yes,
photos.
it did.
So
Yeah,
it's hard for me to imagine somebody did not know.
Yeah, at least that she was in the early stages of pregnancy, you know, at least.
Right.
4 of the last couple of
Because I could see a young woman gaslighting herself into thinking she was less far along than she was.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, I don't know.
months. What is
Or like I could see somebody, a woman getting pregnant, knowing in her heart she was pregnant, but trying to pretend that she wasn't, getting with somebody else, and then trying to make that pregnancy theirs, you know, and acting like you're less far along, possibly. But
Here's
you
like
know,
and here's like another thing, total speculation here, but there've been other cases where this was a factor. If the person who got pregnant had an eating disorder or any issues along that line, that can completely mess up you being in touch with your body, number one. Believe me, I speak from experience on this from back from my teenage days, and just knowing how to read certain physical signals. I don't know if she had that history. Admittedly, it's somewhat of a stereotype to see like college cheerleader and assume that maybe there might be something, but if that is a factor, I do know that can definitely mess with how you view things.
yeah, it might. I think there's also something to be said, which I don't know what the meaning of it is, but have you seen the pictures of her parents?
I have not.
So you see how perfectly put together she is, right?
Yes.
Her parents are not like that at all.
Oh,
They're sweatpants, they're overweight, they are kind of slobby a little bit.
I would not have guessed that. That surprises me. No, it's okay. I wouldn't have guessed that. I haven't seen them, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, me either. And I think that's interesting in a way. You know, I don't know what it means, but there's something interesting there.
For sure.
To the medical center tell you about where we are in this investigation?
This tells me prosecutors are trying to find enough evidence to make a.
Somebody also said I had a precipitous labor. I've never heard of that, but I'm guessing that means like it happened out of nowhere, maybe.
I've never heard that term.
But it reminded me, my mom had back labor, and she didn't know what was wrong with her, and she ended up having a baby at 16 on the bathroom floor because she didn't know she was in labor because it was like all back pain. So that could happen too. You know, if that could be maybe a reason. Maybe she thought she had a kidney stone, or I don't know. Reasons why she didn't call immediately 911 if it was back pain for some.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Manslaughter charge. Right now, they have these lower level charges: abuse of a corpse, concealing a pregnancy, maybe tampering with evidence. Those are low level. I think two
How is concealing a pregnancy a crime?
are low level felonies.
You think that would be somebody's own personal business? I mean, I guess like not afterwards, but you think if you wanted to be pregnant and give that baby up for adoption or be a surrogate for somebody and you wanted to conceal it, that would be your own personal business. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And one is a misdemeanor. In order for them to bring any flavor of a manslaughter charge, there's several different ways to bring manslaughter depending on the intent. They need to know whether this baby was alive and whether Lakin knew this baby was alive. We have some evidence already. She told some people at the hospital that she heard some sounds coming from the baby, some whimpering, I think is what she said. She noticed the color changing in the baby. That suggests the baby was alive. So you can see they are trying to make the case to be able to advance this to a more serious felony.
Why manslaughter? If this baby was born alive and then the baby ends up dead.
I could also see a man, like a cop, a young cop, coming across a miscarriage like that. Like you show up to a house, you're a 22-year-old cop, or however old, and you see a miscarriage, and that kind of traumatizing you a little bit, and then you maybe exaggerating, you calling it a baby, you say, you maybe putting words in her mouth a little bit, like maybe you wanting a certain outcome for justice because of the trauma that seeing that caused you. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah.
Dying.
It is traumatic to see, even a miscarriage.
And she doesn't end up calling anybody. She ends up, she says that she passed out, but then she was going to go to class. Took her some time to go to the hospital. Why manslaughter instead of murder?
Murder's hard to prove because you have to prove intent.
Oh, precipitous means fast, basically. That makes sense. That makes sense. She had her baby in 40 minutes. No time to do anything. Oh my gosh.
At least, and that's the way it works in this state. The jurors are already going to feel some small amount of sympathy for this young woman. Of all the people who could be called a murderer out there, she is lower on the anger scale, if you will. People are a lot more angry at somebody who lies in wait and plans a terrible murder and then causes great pain. So prosecutors have to worry about whether or not a jury would accept a murder charge, or whether they would think, even if you met the elements, whether that's too much for what is, by all accounts, a tragic situation. That's why the law allows for lower levels of what people would call murder, but this Kentucky calls manslaughter, and it depends on your state of mind. Legal term mens rea. Was this intentional? Was this done in the heat of passion? Was this reckless? Was this negligent? In cases like this where a baby's born and then dies because the mother either left it alive or purposely killed it, often we see that the lowest level, I think it's a class D level felony in Kentucky, which would be, some places would call it a negligent homicide or manslaughter.
When it comes to that intent part of it, and if prosecutors, and a lot of this is through media reporting, and we'll see what actually happens if and when she's indicted by a grand jury. But if it is, she was hiding this pregnancy, she didn't want people to know that she was pregnant. Does that factor at all into intent, where then you have this child who ends up dead, if it's proven that the baby was born alive and that she covers it up? Is there any intent in there that could go from that murder to manslaughter charge, just based off the fact that it appears allegedly that she didn't want people to know that she was pregnant?
Yeah, it's all going to be relevant evidence, whatever she knew about how early she realized she was pregnant and what she did to keep it from people. This all suggests that she's trying, consciousness of guilt, trying to avoid being held responsible for it. It's certainly going to anger a jury, and an angry jury will look for a way to make a case. But remember, the burden falls completely on the prosecution. They must prove each and every element of the crimes they charge beyond a reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury. And as a result, they're trying to gather more evidence. Everybody wants to know, was this baby alive, and what did Lakin know before this happened? She can't be made to testify. We have the Fifth Amendment, so she can't be required to testify, but the statements she's made so far can be used against her.
When it comes to this subpoena, prosecutors are reportedly, they want all the records going back to August 2024. This baby was born late August 2025. What do you make of that timeline? I mean, clearly, 9 months for a full-term pregnancy. But what do you just make of them going back that far to try and get her medical records?
They want to tell the jury a story about what happened. They want to be able to say how soon she knew she was pregnant, maybe what doctors told her she should be doing to make sure she has a healthy baby, whether she asked questions about the pregnancy and giving birth at home. We know that there's some evidence that she had some Google searches that suggested that she might be thinking of concealing the pregnancy or doing other things. So jurors, in order to return any kind of a verdict on a serious felony, they're going to really want the best, strongest evidence possible. And you can see the prosecutors trying to build that case right now.
When it comes to a subpoena, because in a lot of cases you'll have, investigators.
Ooh, that's a fluffy kitty
This
cat.
is Katniss. Somebody want to see Katniss? She was born to a feral colony, and I rescued her when she was 6 weeks old.
Aww.
And she is my baby. She was sleeping, but
she doesn't look like a feral cat. She looks like an expensive cat, like a fancy cat.
so she's a Siamese ragdoll mix.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, when I got her, she was so tiny and in
Aw.
such bad shape. But today she's 7 now. So
Oh.
yeah.
They get a search warrant to go into a house and be able to try and gather evidence that way. For prosecutors, what goes into actually getting a subpoena?
Well, there's, as you mentioned, you can do a search warrant, which requires.
All right, we know what goes into a subpoena. I guess we'll come back to this one whenever the grand jury comes back.
For sure. I'll be watching eagerly.
Yes. We will move on to Luigi Mangione.
Ooh.
Yes. So when we were talking about cases to talk about, Shannon said, I want to talk about Luigi. Well, I also am really interested in Luigi Mangione, but she said she wanted to talk about it because she can't believe how many people are sympathizing. Is that what you said?
Well, what I said was it would not surprise me, or at least find myself wondering, is he going to have a legitimate shot at jury nullification just because of the vast number of supporters / fans he has? That's a statement without opinion as to what I think about the fact he has supporters and fans. Factually, there are many, many people in his corner. You see it anytime there's an article posted. Look at the comments. I know that it's fueled largely by hatred towards health insurance companies, which I do happen to share that frustration. I do not share the view that what he did was an acceptable way to deal with it. But just factually, because of so many people who are in his corner, do you think they can get a fair jury? Or do you think it's more likely somebody would lie their way on specifically to make sure he's not convicted?
I think they can get a fair jury. And it'll take a whole jury to nullify. So I think he can get a fair jury.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be nullified because I don't think they can find enough people to agree on that. Because even people with some pretty extreme views, which I find myself to have some pretty extreme, not that extreme, but I'm pretty far to the left, and I can see justification, but I still would convict him. I still don't. I still think he crossed the line. I still think he crossed the line. And I don't. So I don't think the average person would let him go. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, and I guess I'm just always surprised by the level of support, and I see it so often. So it is, I know there have been other people, it's almost like anytime there's a criminal trial, you have some people supporting whomever, but his support is at a different level. It just is.
I mean, I will say joke, free Luigi, but I obviously I obviously don't agree with killing people,
Yeah.
And one thing I saw this thing on Twitter of people trying to shame a bunch of women going into Luigi's trial, and they were videotaping them all walk in, and there was a picture of Andrea. Do you know who Andrea Burkhart is on YouTube? She is she's in this next video we're gonna watch, and she's a a defense attorney, and she does like a lot of appellate work and stuff like that. And Belly says she does not think Luigi did it. So are you talking about people that don't think he did it, or people that think he did it but he was justified?
Am I talking about that?
Yeah. Just
I think that the most of the context that I hear is people who I think they assume he did it or accept that he did it, but think it was justified. The person who said they don't think he did it, I'm curious what that person thinks happened. Honestly, I've not heard this side of it.
Yeah. I think they're going to have to prove it just as much as they would prove anything else. I think, to me, it's going to take DNA, beyond a reasonable doubt, whatever evidence they have.
Right.
But yeah, I have been watching Andrea's coverage of it, and she's been talking about so whenever he was arrested in Pennsylvania, but it was for a warrant in New York, and whenever you're arrested in one state, the intent of those officers, it matters about your rights and stuff like that. So since the Pennsylvania officers were coming to take him for a New York law that was broke, they really needed to be treating his rights as if they were New York cops, if that makes sense. They needed to be following the New York laws because they were taking him into jail for a New York law he broke. So we'll watch this, and it'll explain a little bit of what I'm talking about, and it'll show you who Andrea is.
Okay. Thompson.
She is the queen. She's I love her. She did a lot of Delphi coverage, and she's just, if you like defense attorneys, you'll love her.
This revelation came out towards the tail end of a.
Also, I just found this channel. I don't know anything about it, so just so you know.
Okay, pause for a second.
Week.
Okay, you talk about defense attorneys, just random. Have you watched any videos from Bruce Rivers, the criminal lawyer? I think his channel is Bruce Rivers Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
I don't think so.
So he is not PC, just heads up. He swears all the things. And he's a practicing criminal defense attorney in Minnesota. And my dad and I are just obsessed with listening to his YouTube videos while we drive to baseball games. Just because at first it was refreshing to hear that, just let it fly perspective. But he's also really good analysis too. So just a recommendation for anybody, Bruce Rivers Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Yeah, I'll have to check him out because I really like defense attorneys. I listen to Defense Diaries and Andrea Burkhart and Lawyer Lee.
Awesome.
Hearing in the case of New York State versus Mangione, this hearing it's called a MAP hearing. Typically, it happens for about half a day, maybe a day, and it's meant for defense attorneys to try and get evidence tossed out, not ruled inadmissible in an eventual trial. And there's a whole lot that Luigi Mangione's attorneys are trying to get tossed out, including the backpack search that came without a warrant, as well as statements Mangione made to Altoona police for at least 17 minutes before he was issued his Miranda rights. But this bombshell adds to a long list of, shall we say, abnormal, and that's being generous, things that have happened in this case. Because apparently the Manhattan District Attorney, when he came down to the Altoona Police Department, instructed a New York police detective to record Mangione without his consent or knowledge. Kind of a problem because it's illegal in the state of Pennsylvania.
And then also, I feel like, as bad as it is, people justifying what he allegedly did, I think it's just as bad the state doing that. Exaggerated perp walk, charging him with everything, throwing the book at him, making a example out of him. It's like both sides took it way too far.
The terrorism charge was ridiculous.
Yes.
Really just demeans their actual case, in my opinion, to say that.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania to record without the person knowing. Let me show you. This is from a YouTube channel I've been watching from a criminal defense attorney, Andrea Burkhart, has been a lawyer for a long time. Her analysis of this, which happened just a few days ago, she describes what happened and this revelation.
Did anyone tell Mangione he was going to be video or audio taped during this interview?
Matt can attest that I've spent probably hundreds of hours watching this lady right here.
I do not know.
every time I like get stuck on a case that she's covering, Matt will come in and see me watching her, and he'll just roll his eyes because he knows that it's just hundreds. Because she'll do her streams are like 6 hours long.
I'm literally gonna subscribe to her channel right now.
Oh, she's so good.
Okay.
I want to be her whenever I grow up.
Okay. Awesome.
We're going to pause right here. So this is happening during the cross-examination of Detective Leonardi by Mark Agnifilo. And Joel Siedemann is the prosecuting attorney. He's a ADA, I guess. I forget what they actually call them there. And sometimes it runs together. Sometimes state's attorney, sometimes it's ADA. I'm pretty sure it's ADA. Anyway, he's the deputy prosecutor who is like the first chair in this case. And so we're learning he was apparently there in Pennsylvania at this time. They sit down with Luigi after he's been taken into custody, and they're going to talk to him. So Siedemann is there, gives the warnings to Luigi. Don't know if anybody told him he was going to be audio or video recorded. Well, this is going to be important. Leonardi doesn't know if Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state. Without knowing what the rules were in Pennsylvania, you set yourself up a procedure where Luigi Mangione was going to be audio and videotaped. Parentheses, without him knowing. Leonardi said he was being instructed by the Manhattan DA. So Siedemann is running the show about how they're going to conduct this interrogation of Luigi. And he doesn't know if Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state. So
Kind of a problem. Kind of a problem. If you had already searched his backpack without a warrant, had not issued his Miranda rights for 17 minutes, and some lawyers say all of this is fine and dandy. Others say this is going to be a problem for the prosecution. But now we're adding on that they added audio and video recordings of him without telling him and without his consent in a state that requires those things. It's just a mountain of issues with.
And apparently there has been cases thrown out for that reason of one state coming to get somebody from another state, but not applying the laws that they're supposed to apply.
Gotcha.
Just the initial arrest, the way they obtained alleged evidence. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but this all seems highly problematic.
So Joel Siedemann is making the calls. He's instructing the detective what to do. But apparently nobody looked into Pennsylvania law for the purposes of deciding what do we need to do in the context of this interview to make sure that it is legal. At one point, everyone in the room left. Mangione was being audio and videotaped without anybody there. Do you know if that's legal? So this is kind of classic interrogation setup, very common to have, you set it up, you have them on video, you come in and out of the room. Just a lot of different reasons why this goes down, but part of it is they're watching you in there. They're watching you in there. They're seeing what you do. How do you behave? Do you do anything weird? So they have him recorded, and nobody can say, apparently, we told him he was going to be recorded. Again, I was being guided by legal counsel I had with me. Are you aware of whether he said certain things to himself while he was in a room by himself? There's an objection, and it's sustained. He used a recording device, body-worn camera, and video through a one-way mirror. So multiple levels of setting this up to be recorded. When you do this in New York, do you tell the person you're going to be recorded? So now Joel Siedemann, there in the courtroom, the first chair, objects as to relevance, and Judge Caro asks them to approach. So they're up there talking to the judge. Just FYI, Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state, so they shouldn't be recording someone without telling them.
Listen, I keep repeating this. This is forget whether you abhor, detest what Luigi Mangione allegedly did, or you support him for whatever your reasons are, or you really don't fall into either of those categories and just desperately want the American health care system to actually be health care and to remove the mafioso-esque middleman, which is the for-profit, murderous, predatory health insurance industry. Forget all that. I mean, there's just such a long list now of things that if it was a really, really wealthy, Jeffrey Epstein type, or the Sackler family, or name your super, super wealthy white billionaire, I mean, there'd be a mistrial by now. I mean, just some of them. The prosecution eavesdropped on his phone calls, Luigi's phone calls with his lawyers. What was it? Aetna, accidentally.
Well, he can't really say that if it was somebody rich, it would have been thrown out by now, because Luigi Mangione has had some of that craziest fundraising that's ever happened. You know,
For
so
sure. He didn't exactly grow up in poverty either.
yeah, that's true. Yes, that is very true too.
Provided the prosecution over 120 pages of Mangioni's medical records. There's a thing called HIPAA. Apparently, the prosecution says, "Oh, we didn't go through them." Now you have that the New York district attorney or prosecutor, along with the New York detective, was inserting audio, video recordings without him knowing, without him agreeing. I don't know what statements he might have made to them or just speaking to himself. Who knows what one does?
Andrea said the most incriminating thing he did was lie about who he was and hand over a fake ID. And that's really where he went wrong.
In a room being kind of freezed out for hours. This is a whole lot. So, a good defense team is going to add brick by brick all of this if he's convicted to an appeal. Let me continue because she goes on to point out other things that are pretty relevant in this case.
It seems pretty evident that the reason why there's really two reasons. One is because the detective here has just kind of made Joel Siedemann a witness to what's happened in all of this and whether it's legal or not. That's a little bit of a problem for the prosecuting attorney because a lawyer cannot be both a lawyer in a case and a witness in the case. And so if you're in a situation where, he's got to be able to provide testimony to explain, that here's what's happened and here's why and so forth, he can't also be the lawyer. He's got to withdraw. He's got a conflict now. So that's probably a piece of the puzzle here. But the other part of it is simply it's illegal under Pennsylvania law.
So basically what she's saying is this prosecutor who was illegally instructing the New York police guy to record him without his permission or knowledge, he could be called as a witness, which then basically cancels you out of prosecuting the case as the prosecutor because you can't be a witness and the prosecutor at the same time. Problematic, shall we say. Let's finish up as she finishes with a main takeaway here.
And it also just makes me wonder if they kind of suspect, they kind of already suspect this might not end well in the New York State court. Now, the federal case is going to be a whole different situation. There's going to be a whole different set of standards that apply, whole different jury pool, all kinds of reasons why the federal prosecution is, not necessarily affected by what's kind of coming out in this New York motion to suppress. But I just gotta keep saying there is a much better than zero chance that this case could get tossed.
The state case could get tossed. Now, I mean, she is one of the few saying that. So to be clear, most lawyers are not saying that. So this, if you were a Luigi supporter, is, one of the more hopeful interpretations. Not that I'm saying that lawyer is a Luigi supporter. I don't think that's the case. I just think she's calling balls and strikes.
Yeah,
but she's pointing out all of just from abnormal to straight up illegal things that have gone out. There's also something that came out. Luigi's attorneys who have not spoken to the press after these hearings. They did speak the other day after the hearing, particularly about a statement that the prosecution has claimed since the beginning that Luigi Mangioni's mother made, insinuating she called or gave a tip to the San Francisco police.
Think about all this evidence coming out about this case, but still nothing on Sarah Grace Patrick.
Police department that she could see Luigi, her son, doing this. Karen Agnifilo-Friedman, Luigi's lead attorney, came out to speak to the press, pointing out this never happened and the prosecution has not corrected it.
Today, we were fully expecting the case detective, Detective Diaz, to testify. And it was only after Lieutenant Leonardi testified about the illegal wiretap of Mr. Mangioni in Altoona, Pennsylvania, that they withdrew statement notice. And now suddenly we're not going to have the lead case detective in this case. It's significant. There was a lot of open questions that we wanted to question him about, especially the very prejudicial statement made by the chief of detectives at the time. There was a press conference a year ago where they were talking about all the probable cause and the reasons they had to believe that Mr. Mangioni committed this crime. And one of those things was that they relied on a statement made by his mother that she said she could see him doing something like this. That's an absolutely false statement. That was never said. And In fact, we asked for discovery regarding that. The prosecution told us they gave us all the discovery. We've even subpoenaed materials from San Francisco Police Department. There is no such statement. It was never made. In fact, it was the opposite. What Mrs. Mangione said was that she could never see her son being a risk to himself or others. And we put that on the record again today, and that still has not been corrected by either the NYPD or the Manhattan DA's office. That's a prejudicial statement that has been repeated many, many times. And yes, I'm repeating it here, but because you all have published this over and over and over again, because this was an essential piece of information that Detective Kenny said was relied upon by the NYPD in this case. So we want the NYPD or the San Francisco PD or the Manhattan DA to correct this very prejudicial statement that was never said.
Another wooza. 1-2. Another whopper there by Luigi's attorney, Karen Agnifilo Friedman.
All right. So, yeah, that's Luigi. I think he's going to be in court for a long time.
I would agree with that one.
Let's see. Next on our agenda. So, yeah, we can talk about Sarah Grace if you want.
For sure.
Isn't it wild how there's still nothing? Still nothing.
I mean, I cannot wait when we finally get to find out what the evidence is. Until we know that, how can you make definitive statements? I mean, I don't know if she did it or didn't do it. There's certainly many things I think have been incorrect in terms of making assumptions based on behaviors that just don't set right with some people. Dislike that. I will always be one who advocates against that. But so intrigued to find out what they have. Do they have it? I'm not a lawyer like some of these commentators, but I know enough about crime to know that in every freaking case I've followed, things leak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but they do. This is interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with all the drama surrounding this case and all the narratives being pushed. I just want to start seeing some facts. And if she does get bond, it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
So a couple things, just random commentary. So about bond, I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but I was so bothered at the first bond hearing. I mean, I'll just say this. I don't know how they're supposed to go. My understanding of bond is its purpose is to ensure somebody is not a flight risk or danger to the community, and to ensure they show up in court for their scheduled meetings, hearings, etc. Watching that bond hearing, the fact that victims' family members got up, and please don't take this as criticism because I understand why they're devastated. It's very clear that they're devastated for the loss of their loved ones. I get it. I'm sure I would be the same way. But in what world is that evidence of Sarah Grace being a flight risk or a danger to the community? You're essentially convicting her if you're saying that their devastation is reason, you know what I mean? They're going to be devastated no matter who did it. I just don't understand why that was weighed so heavily. I don't criticize them for being devastated. I get it, again. But the judge, like, what is he thinking there? I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, and it was like they were taking everything as fact already, which is not good. And I did hear a few commentators say that, and apparently in a few states that is legal for that to happen, but they just like I guess let it happen because there's no jury, there at the time to be discriminatory of what is happening, and they can just let the people say what they want, and
but I guess like if criteria for somebody getting bond is the victim's family devastated, who's going to ever meet that standard? Like,
right.
Isn't any victim's family always going to be devastated?
Right.
I don't feel like that should factor in as heavily as it did.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the decision maker, and I think that the bond hearing coming up, I asked ChatGPT what Sarah Grace's chances of bond were at the upcoming hearing. And I mean, I use ChatGPT way too often, probably. And interestingly, read everything that it did. I was actually going to make a little TikTok about this, but it basically told me that it was possible but not likely, estimating it to be about 20%. For what ChatGPT's opinion is worth.
I think it is interesting because if anybody deserves bond, it is her. There's no, evidence that she did this, for one, physical evidence that that I've heard of, and also she's so young, and being in isolation is gonna fuck her up.
I just think that
Bad.
there's so many measures that they could take to ensure that she, doesn't flee, comes to court, measures such as house arrest, etc., keeps everybody safe, that there's just no reason not to implement them. I mean, I would be
Yeah.
firmly in the corner of her getting bond. Unfortunately, I get zero say in this matter, but I will be watching with interest.
Yeah, and people are really against her having bond.
I mean, some people are.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely are, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm not one to critique somebody else's opinion,
right.
but I mean, it was mind blowing to me how they weighed the evidence of people being dead. That sounded like a victim impact statement to me, where you would like weigh it for sentencing.
Yeah, one right after another, right after another, right after another.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was
it's
crazy.
My only other comment about it, the case in general, is I still to this day do not understand if the true goal, and it should be, is justice for the victims. Doesn't that mean identifying and convicting the actual perpetrator or perpetrators? Which I'm not, again, advocating that she did or did not do it. What I'm saying is why not explore all angles? Why not want all questions asked? Why get defensive if certain questions are asked that question a narrative you may have? That is another thing that I do not understand.
I don't understand it either.
So, I mean, really, those are my two comments. The case has grabbed me based largely on personal experience of my own actions being misinterpreted, completely different situation. I know from lived experience, you can act one way on the surface. People can think it means something that it's completely different than what's going on inside. It's also possible. Another YouTube channel I like, I don't know if anybody's heard of Dr. Todd Grande, but he is basically so he analyzes all these cases. He did one about this case way back when, basically stating that there's not enough evidence at this point to convince him of her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But, and this was the but he threw in, if she did do it, then the TikToks, etc., do take on a different meaning.
Yes.
So,
yes.
and that's a whole different discussion that we just cannot have until we have the facts.
Right. Because I think it is so normal for, I mean, I know a lot of people don't think it's normal, but I think it is completely normal for kids to make TikToks. I mean, that's what they do.
I think seeking attention on social media is something that all age groups do at various points.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I don't weigh that super heavily one way or the other, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. So I have this, for the Tepe case, I have a little video. It looks like the guy getting called to his, I don't know what this is, a bond hearing or something. Let's share.
This case is fascinating.
Yes, very, very much. And, I think it's interesting. A lot of these murders where people break in and two people get shot in the middle of the night, I wonder how much evidence they have on him, like compared to Sarah. This is a similar situation.
That's interesting you say that, because that's one of the, initially, now we know more, but initially when that happened, I thought there's a lot of parallels here.
Yes.
Now we know more, I'm not necessarily thinking that so much anymore, but it's interesting.
Yes.
Emotionally abusive.
Can you hear okay?
Yes.
And threatening.
The brother-in-law of Spencer and Monique Tepe revealing details about Monique's ex-husband, Dr. Michael McKee, who's now accused of murdering the couple as their children slept. Were you surprised that the arrest was made?
Also, a lot of people use the fact that Sarah and the 5-year-old at the time weren't hurt as evidence that Sarah did it. And in this case, the kids weren't hurt. So just something to think about.
No.
This comes as Columbus police speak for the first time since McKee's arrest, revealing new details about the evidence.
This was a targeted attack. This was a domestic violence related attack.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Spencer Tepe and Monique were shot to death in the middle of the night as their young children slept. Their family and friends were heartbroken, shocked, and saddened. It happened on December 30th, police say just before 4 a.m. And a member of the Tepe family tells me there was just one person that family and friends suspected of the chilling crime, Dr. Michael McKee, Monique Tepe's ex-husband. Days after the homicides, Columbus police released surveillance video of a shadowy figure walking down the street around the time of the murders, hoping that someone could identify this man. Monique married Michael McKee in the summer of 2015, but records show they separated 7 months later in 2016. But the couple didn't file for divorce until 2017. Records show Monique and Michael McKee had moved to Virginia from Ohio. Michael McKee was completing a residency. He had studied medicine at the Ohio State University. But Monique was not happy in Virginia and returned to Columbus, Ohio, while McKee remained in Virginia. And I can tell you that Michael McKee did not want this divorce, not at all. A spokesperson with the Federal Bureau of
I've been hearing a lot of people say about his change in appearance. You see how his face looks different compared to his like right where is it? Right here. And how he's like more of a moon face. People are saying like maybe steroids, maybe like there's some kind of disease where cortisol goes up and it gives you a moon face. I forgot what that disease is called, but people are saying like there's something to that, maybe possibly.
Did you hear today? I was actually watching this video and it was talking about how there had been like a court hearing scheduled for the two of them related to their divorce that was like sent out in air just very shortly before this crime happened.
Oh, no, I didn't hear that.
So I was just watching this today and I don't know all the specifics, but apparently the court possibly even made a mistake. And I think it might have been Court TV that had this video. One of the main channels had a video just today. And essentially they were saying something was scheduled. They were probably both notified. And maybe that could have been, this was an error, but maybe it could have triggered like a memory, an assumption. I'm not sure, but it was an interesting consideration.
Tobacco and Firearms told me that they worked with Illinois State Police and Rockford Police to take McKee into custody on January 10th. That was a Saturday morning. The address where McKee was taken into custody comes back to a Chick-fil-A restaurant near the medical center where McKee worked as a vascular surgeon. Now, days after the arrest and after McKee appeared in court, Columbus police are releasing new information and details about the investigation and evidence they say ties McKee to the murders.
We believe at this point, we have the person responsible for the murders of Monique and Spencer Tepe in custody. And that person is Michael McKee. This is still an active and ongoing investigation. Detectives
I heard, I don't know if they're going to get into this or not, but I heard he left his cell phone at the hospital the whole time that he did this.
are still going through evidence, tips, and videos. We can't speak to all the specific details related to this case, so we don't want to jeopardize the ultimate goal of conviction. But what we can say, this was a targeted attack. This was a domestic violence related attack. As we know, McKee is the ex-husband of Monique Tepe. We can say that we have the suspect's vehicle on neighborhood video surveillance arriving just before the murders and leaving shortly after. Detectives were able to link this vehicle to McKee. The vehicle was located in Rockford, Illinois, and evidence was found that showed McKee in possession of the vehicle before and after the homicides. We can also say that multiple weapons were taken from the property of McKee. And there is a preliminary link from our NIBIN to one of the weapons that ties it to the homicides.
Now,
I hate ballistics evidence.
this information about a firearm being seized from McKee's home that has been linked at least preliminarily to the homicides is a major new development in this rapidly unfolding case. One reporter said at the press conference that neighbors had said they'd seen McKee at the Tepe home in the days before the homicides, but the police chief, she wouldn't confirm that information. And there are other questions surfacing. Did Michael McKee have any other relationships with women after Monique? Did he remarry? That's a really big question right now. And I've learned from sources that Michael McKee spoke to detectives early in the investigation and offered an alibi, but that story crumbled under scrutiny. McKee appeared in court earlier this week in Illinois and waived extradition, meaning he will return to Ohio without a fight to answer to these premeditated murder charges.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your position at this time?
Yes, at this time, Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. McKee, I will assert his right to counsel. I will assert his right to remain silent. And Mr. McKee believes that the most expeditious manner in which he may defend himself against the charges pending in Ohio and to plead not guilty would be to waive his right to an extradition hearing and to have a governor's warrant and to agree to his immediate transportation to Ohio.
Now, just this past weekend, friends and family gathered to mourn Spencer and Monique Tepe, the dentist and stay-at-home mom, the mother and father to 2 young children who, thank God, were unharmed in this double homicide. The Tepes were loved by so many. So I want to bring in Rob Misla. He is the brother-in-law of Spencer and Monique Tepe. Rob, first of all, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. How are you and the families doing right now?
I think the past 2 days were bittersweet, but also probably the hardest days that we've experienced, especially Monday with the burial service, just kind of saying the final goodbyes was something that none of us ever imagined we'd experience. So trying to go back to work and live a normal life again is something that's impossible. Number one. Number two, just, there's just like a lot of grief takes a long time. So
I know you all just had the funerals for Monique and Spencer. That had to just be so difficult. I mean, you all should just be looking forward to the rest of all of your lives together. And I know I saw on Facebook that you were putting a video together for the service.
yeah, I mean, I was assisting with kind of the photo slideshow. I'm going to put something else more heartfelt, I guess, together soon, just to honor them. But yeah, I mean, everybody in the family had some role to fill. There was maybe, I think there was more than 1,000 people there.
Wow.
Which the funeral home said it was the largest they'd ever seen. I think that's just a big testament to who Monique and Spencer were and how impactful they were.
On Saturday, when you guys got the news that they had made the arrest, what were your feelings and the family's feelings?
It obviously doesn't bring them back. It doesn't reverse this entire situation. But to feel just some little bit of relief, it felt like some of the weight was.
Do you remember how long he was on the loose for?
I don't. I do not remember. Not long.
Me either.
I know they.
That's good.
I want to say a couple weeks, maybe, but I don't know for sure exactly.
2 weeks feels like long.
Especially, the timing of it going with the funeral the next day. It's, step one in the entire process, but at the same time, he's not convicted yet. So we're steadfast in making sure that all of these stones are unturned and that he's, he doesn't walk free again. So.
Were you surprised that the arrest was made?
No, I had no idea about the timing or, who the investigators had as suspects, but I can just say that very early on, speaking for at least the Tepe side of the family, that we were pretty sure who did this.
And why was the Tepe side of the family so certain?
What had been going on,
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out.
10 years had passed. Had there been any communication more recently?
Surely.
Or was it just that terrible 10 years ago that's what they're going to think, forever?
Yeah.
That he was the primary suspect, that he was going to be the person that law enforcement arrested and charged.
And again, yeah, I'm just trying to speak for the Tepe side of the family because, Monique's side had obviously a different relationship with her. They've known her since she was born. For us, we met Monique in 2018 when Spencer first introduced her to us. But we were fairly certain because of just what Monique had told us stories wise of her. She never called him by name. She would just call him her ex-husband, and just how much of a monster he was, to be honest, emotionally abusive and threatening. And, she did everything she could to extricate herself from that situation. And, met Spencer and lived a very happy life. But I can't speak for Monique, but I know that it changed her as a person. And perhaps it was always in the back of her mind. I don't know.
Had she ever spoken to you about it, or Spencer, or did you just hear about a lot of this after the fact?
No, we were aware. She wasn't shy about talking about it, and how it had impacted her kind of mentally just as a person going forward. So we had all heard stories and then talked to her deeply about these situations, but at the same time, we were all thinking this is something in the past. And Monique is clearly happy right now and has a family and is with the person that she loves. So while we were aware of it, we were also more awestruck by the couple themselves and how much they were in love. So
did Spencer and Monique ever voice concerns to you, or did Monique voice concerns that she thought this guy just was going to show back up, or that he wasn't letting go of the past?
I would say that she was always worried about him. But at the same time, we never thought that it seemed like a direct threat. And she never mentioned, like, of recent, at least to me, that that he'd been in contact with her or anything. So, that's all I can say, I guess.
Mm-hmm. From the moment that this happened, it sounded like, from what I'm hearing from you, that you all thought immediately that this was Dr. McKee, that this was the guy. Did the family obviously say to law enforcement, to the detectives, that you've got to go talk to this guy?
Yeah, absolutely. And not just the family. I know friends, former coworkers of Monique, a lot of people were aware. And she wasn't, something that I really loved about Monique is she wasn't shy about talking about these experiences. I think kind of as just maybe a therapy. But yeah, I think I can't imagine how many tips they got that were leading to him.
Wow. You can see in the paperwork, they were married for like 7 months, and then the paperwork's not filed for over, it sounds like, a year. So was this like him just trying to get back with her, or do you know anything about that?
I mean, yeah, that would be my suspicion. For her to, you can see in the court documents, just give up the house and not fight for it. It was very obvious that she had to get away from him. And it seems as though he didn't believe that. He didn't understand why, I guess. I've never spoken to this person, and I hope I never do speak to him. But I think it just shows a lot that she didn't mind giving up any kind of equity in anything just to be removed from him entirely.
Mm-hmm. We saw your
so
wedding
scary.
video.
Yeah.
Just so scary to imagine living in that type of fear in any relationship, and then to have it be a factor 10 years later, possibly. I mean, this is all assuming this guy is guilty.
Yeah.
But, interestingly, lots of evidence has leaked out already.
Yeah.
Saying it
Yeah. Yep. They're saying how they caught him, on what cameras they have, and everything, like.
The weapon was found in his house.
Yep.
And it was of Spencer and Monique, and it was very beautiful, very intimate, inside their home. I mean, they looked so happy and joyful, and everybody was just so happy, and she just radiated joy. That's like the best way I can describe it when I look at her. Obviously, I didn't know her. I want you to tell me about Monique and Spencer, your feelings about them, your thoughts about them, what you want people to know about them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that the wedding video can be kind of proof of what their love was like. But they were also way more than that. They were just good people. They were active in the community. They were popular neighbors, like, and the amount of people that I've met through them who have just become my friends. They were really kind of the center of this orbit, the nucleus, I guess, of so many people. And beyond that, they were obviously amazing parents, and you can see you can see them in both of their children, good or bad. They both were they were different, but they were also the same. They balanced each other out really well, I think. They were just fun people to be around, and kind of lit up the room whenever they walked in.
Yeah. Spencer, he was a dentist. And I know that Monique was a stay-at-home mom. I'm sure she was just devoted to the children every day. What was Spencer like?
Spencer was equal parts goofball, class clown, athletic jock, and just brilliant dork.
After being with somebody so angry, she probably went for the most goofy guy she could find.
I am sure.
I guess, for lack of a better term. You really can't pigeonhole him, because he kind of existed outside of the bounds of what like a stereotype would be, I guess. I mean, he was the life of the party, but also just one of the most responsible people that I'd ever met. And it just showed, like, the amount of friends that showed up to mourn his loss was just it was incredible, to be honest. And the amount of friends that I have through him, I think really speaks to how both of them just created this bond between people. They never compartmentalized friend groups. They just brought people together.
How is the Tepe side of the family doing? I mean, your wife, she was Spencer's sister. I mean, how are they coping right now?
Everyone's been incredibly strong, while the waves of grief kind of come and shift as they do. My wife specifically gave just an incredible speech at the funeral that had people both in absolute tears of laughter and in tears of sorrow. I think she put it perfectly described who Spencer was, not only as a brother, but as a person.
Robin, the statement that the family put out the other day, it talked about wanting, to see this, full accountability. What does that mean for the family?
It means whatever sentence the judge chooses on all of these counts that he's going to be charged on, because we feel very confident that he is guilty. He is the one that did this, and that justice will prevail. And again, we have so much confidence in not only the Columbus Police Department, but the investigators and all police that were involved.
Rob Misla told me around the time that detectives believed that Spencer and Monique were murdered, his wife, who was Spencer's sister, she awoke. And he believes that was a sign of sorts that something was wrong. So
the night that this happened, I was up late in our basement, and I was editing a video, and it was around 3:30, 4 a.m. right in that time frame that investigators had said they think this occurred. And I can hear upstairs my wife, who was dead asleep, kind of get up and shuffle around very quickly. And then I heard her walk over to where our fridge is and get some water, and then go back to bed, and don't think anything of it. And the next day I asked what was that? She said, I just got this horrible pain in my stomach, like I had to throw up. And she also didn't think anything of it until she got that same pain when we first got the call. So I truly believe that between siblings like that, they were that close and they had that sort of connection. And she could physically feel it. So,
oh my gosh. Well,
it'll be nice to hopefully see the evidence in that case and see that come to justice. And
Yeah, it's just that's haunting. That case is just haunting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of stating the obvious here, but the man is a vascular surgeon. That implies education, intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's a job that's probably going to pay well. I don't know if you've seen the like Zillow pictures of the apartment he was living in, but it was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Why throw that away? Like what heartbreak, whatever could be important enough to throw your life away? It's a mentality I do not understand.
Me either.
But that's, I guess, why it's fascinating, because if it was something I could completely understand, probably wouldn't be that interested in listening to it all the time.
Yeah, and it does seem like sometimes these people, it might be, like some correlation where these people in positions of power are like people that are doctors and lawyers and stuff like that tend to commit these crimes and waste all that education. Do they also like have some kind of grandiosity in their personality, or some kind of other factor that makes them both a better CEO, a better doctor, a better lawyer, and also maybe more likely to commit crimes, possibly.
Some people, I don't know if you've ever encountered them, that like they've never been told no, or when they are told no, they don't accept it well. That perceived rejection or slight. That's scary. I've definitely met a couple like that, and ugh.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the Laura Owen story, but it's not a murder story, but she was never told no, and she got to be an adult. Well, first off, there's Nick Reiner, which is, one of those kind of, I don't know if he was told no or not, but it's another example of growing up with a golden spoon in your mouth, or a silver spoon or whatever. And then the Laura Owens thing, it's like you never get told no, and then you get to be an adult and you get to have a boyfriend and they tell you no, and then you just start making crazy accusations against them, because they told you no. It's crazy.
Yeah, that Nick Reiner case, by the way, is sad. Guess when I think about that one, and I will admit I had no idea who Rob Reiner was. Like that is
Yeah, me
literally
either.
the first time I'd heard his name. But I've heard of some of the movies that he directed. But anyway,
Yeah.
when I think about that case and operating somewhat on the assumption that the son may have been mentally ill, they said he had been like diagnosed schizophrenic, on and off medicines. They were struggling to get them right. What I keep picturing in my mind is there will come a time, assuming he was like not in the right frame of mind, there will come a time when that stabilizes. And can you imagine living with the realization of what you had done?
Yeah.
Like that just, I can't imagine any worse torture, frankly. Awful.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the same thing, with the postpartum psychosis. Whenever those women kind of, go crazy and do that to their kids, and then, after the hormones are gone, you're in prison, years later, you wake up and, it's like you let your thoughts overtake you. I had a little bit of postpartum depression, just a little bit, nothing crazy, but I did have like more intrusive thoughts than I've ever had during that time of my life,
Yeah.
And it was kind of scary, but I mean, it was obviously nothing, compared to what a lot of people have, but it is scary.
Yeah. Well, it's just, there's so many fascinating cases.
Yep. Well, whenever Sarah Grace Patrick, whenever her stuff goes to bond hearing, we'll reconvene.
Yeah, for sure. Now, just before we leave, what is
Mhm.
and do you think she will be granted bond?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't know though. I think it's going to be crazy if she does get granted bond, because then what are they going to say then? Whenever she's out and she can defend herself, is she going to defend herself? Like hopefully not. Hopefully she stays far away from a cell phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? And then also like what kind of support is she going to have?
I have a feeling there'd be plenty of people stepping up to support her. It's very divided, obviously, either in her corner, not in her corner. But it does seem like she has a good core group of people that would definitely be willing to support her, take her in, help her out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, June, is it January 27th?
Yep.
Fun. I look forward to it. Like I will be watching.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I hope they can figure out something. I don't think it's constitutional to keep her in solitary this whole time.
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, in a concept where somebody is innocent until proven guilty, holding somebody in jail in general, I don't love. I just don't, because you're not treated like you're innocent in jail.
Yeah.
And the purpose of bond being, again, to keep the community safe and to ensure somebody shows up to all court hearings that they need to. They can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too, especially with her being young, no license, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh. Well, we shall see. I think it's 2 weeks from now we'll know about.
Yep.
Maybe not even quite long.
Yep. Nah, not this coming up Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that, it looks like. So.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was fun to talk cases.
Yes. And what is what's your TikTok? I forgot. So people can follow you over there.
I think I called it Shannon Sleuths, just trying to play off my first name. I did start a YouTube channel, which I have not yet posted on, but will be getting into depth in cases if anybody wants to follow that. The handle is just in the chat. Shannon Talks True Crime.
Okay, sounds good. And then whenever you get going on that, we can stream to both of our channels. So let me know. Yeah.
Will do.
Sounds good.
I will get going on that, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Yeah, and let me know if you have any questions with starting your YouTube, you know, because I'm starting mine too. So
for sure. And Kat says hi to everybody again. She was
yes.
Say hi earlier.
Yes, tell your cat I said hi.
Will do.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, All Eyes. I really appreciate you for all your help that you've been doing behind the scenes lately. Really, really, really. All right. Have a good evening. Bye.